Tolley-Jordan. I'm in biology, and this year I had students in my freshwater biology class do a review of the literature. The purpose of this review is to show that in biology or any science we think of having repeatability as just running more trials, and that's what that means, to ensure that you have, as others do your research, that they come to the same conclusions. But in actuality, repeatability comes through the literature in which multiple people have taken multiple approaches to arrive at similar answers. And so in order to show students how science actually works, they do a very extensive literature review in which they parse through different categories, and students chose their own projects. And so Christian had an exceptionally interesting project that I had never heard about or had any information, and so he's going to share that with you today. And he's also a senior marine biology major.
Thank you. So my topic was a review of freshwater quantity and quality challenges and effects on the conservation and regulatory needs in small island developing states. So a big worry of concern in tiny small islands is the accessibility of water. So most islands, we're typically surrounded by the ocean, so there's no fresh water or limited fresh water. So for this particular topic, it interests me. I'm from the Bahamas, so I'm a member of the SIDS, Small Island Developing States. You would hear me say that throughout the presentation. So So this is our study area, particularly Pacific Islands, Caribbean, Asian, Indian Ocean mainstream. So mostly, particularly these countries are places that you would visit for vacation, mostly Maldives, Bahamas, typical places. So the main question was, what is the state of science on water quality and quantity issues within small island developing states? So currently, we have urbanization, climate change, and most of these islands are susceptible to those factors. So particularly, I found research first, literature, small island freshwater, keywords, water scarcity. I looked at 35 scientific literature ranging from 1998 to 2023. So recently, this is a fairly early study. There's not much done. I looked at scientific papers, and most of them were also reports, because currently there's little to no data on this. This is the first of its kind. So I used Google Scholar, Scientific Direct, and other databases to collect data. Part two, I compiled the data. All literature was categorized and stored in Excel. We looked at scientific approaches, modeling, field studies, etc. So I looked at three different factors: water quantity, water resources, water availability, and then we looked at response variables. So particularly for factors, most of the factors were similar or kind of intertwined. Water demand was 15%, water quality, water scarcity. Saltwater intrusion is a big thing because we live next to the ocean, so that's a typical thing. And then water resources. So most of them, the papers were surveys. As I said, there's just not much data out there. Then most of the response variables were sustainable water management, adaptation strategies, water scarcity indexes, which I'll show you guys later, and then policy implementation. So as you look, most of them, 60% were surveys, 56% surveys. This number is very small, so number of 5. Data studies, that's really terrible. Like 5 datas, like it's not good. Particularly for my country, you look here, I'm from the Bahamas. Our water indexes is 60. That's pretty low. Not saying that we're water stressed or water scarce. However, our groundwater is not, compared to Jamaica, it's not that high. So what must we do to preserve these? So isolation, small size, limited resources. Adequate community education is the main factor. Most people in the Bahamas or SIDS don't really think about this. On the average, most people don't know about small island developing states. Um, Currently, there's no water policies nowhere in SIDS, which is alarming. That's why I did this particular project. So you look at many of these islands, like I said earlier, is very tourist destinations. So there's population and urbanization growth. We're always trying to rebuild the community. I'm trying to make it more touristy. So saline intrusion is the main thing. If you look at the climate drivers, which is like saltwater intrusion, rainfall. Currently, most islands use groundwater and rainwater for fresh water because there really isn't that much freshwater resources. So here, sorry. Overall, I looked at how many islands have no surface water and what needs to be done. Currently, I am reaching out to current SIDS to let them know about this. On average, the average person doesn't care because there's no care policy, there's no education in place, there's no resource management in place. So overall, I think there needs more studies needs to be done. And thank you.
Questions for our speaker?
Yes.
Yeah, so in those small island countries, does the water quality, does it not fall into the hands of like the local government? Is there, or what's your perspective on it? Does it look like there's a?
Well, currently the government is only focused, like I said, on tourism. Most of these places are tourist destinations, as you see, Maldives, Bahamas, Jamaica, around there. They're not really focused on water quality. I also like to say most of our water, like drinkable water, comes from imports from the U.S. So we use rainwater if you have a gauge to catch rainwater, but we don't have fresh water at all. We usually do reverse osmosis, where we get salt water and change it to fresh. So I'm basically showering and drinking the same water. Yeah. Yes.
Have you done any research on how many parts per thousand salt water people will tolerate before they won't drink it?
Currently our government has in place where they handle that, and they really don't give us that data. So I can't figure it out unless I ask government officials, but they usually keep those things to themselves.
I've done a lot of research in the Caribbean, and many of these islands have, like Barbuda, have no surface water, and when you turn the tap on, it tastes like salt water.
Yeah.
And their willingness to tolerate it versus tourism is a huge difference.
Yeah, correct. Like I said, tourists, they get the best of the best. Usually we have different water systems. I don't know where the hotels get their water, but it's pretty better than the average local water.
This is more of a point out about the significance of Christian's research was that I made the assumption that there would be data available about developing nations. And as he went through the literature and kept going through the literature and coming back and saying, there's just handwavy reports from different agencies, like we need to conserve fresh water, period. And the issue is he found 5 papers with actual data inside of them. So there could be data available from government agencies, but unlike the US, there's not necessarily Freedom of Information Acts. And so the issue is there's just very few numbers out there in order to understand what's going on with their actual freshwater resources. And so this really is the first comprehensive study of this kind that we can find. So I was really impressed and also shocked with the results. So it was a really neat topic. So.
All right. Other questions for our speaker?
I'll just make a statement. That is interesting because being in and growing up in an area where groundwater, we're fortunate that, I mean, it's just there. You don't think about how, I mean, you think, okay, there's roundabout water, but that's a whole different.
That's a whole different type of water. Yeah.
Very
thank our speaker.